and gentlemen, welcome to the Forest County Bigfoot Festival 2024. Are we all excited to be here? How are we not excited to be here, right? Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is from Marienville, New York. He is from Lake Ontario. He is a orchard and, what did I say?
Orchard and vineyard supply.
Vineyard supply business. Yes.
Wildlife control.
Wildlife control. Primitive hunter. 2012, he's been researching Bigfoot. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Todd Smith.
Thank you very much. No, I couldn't resist that, sorry. So, I've been blessed with a lot of cool experiences and meeting great people down here, and they actually turned into one of my research areas, like 20 minutes from here, and as of like last night. And if you guys were to go to my YouTube channel, I documented it kind of quickly. I don't understand the motivation. It's a lot to get the head around, you know. And so what I'm going to focus on, what I've been getting here, are these. Can I walk out in the sun a little bit?
I can do this if you want.
Is that good?
Yep, sounds good.
Well, they don't just have big feet. They have big hands. And this camper, emergency exit window, is just in the turnaround of this house, which is just a regular house, ranch, but it's surrounded by the forest, and, you know, edge of the national forest, just not far from here. So this goes back to April a couple years ago, and you could see the handprints on there, and it's it's tough to photograph with the glare, so, you know, I thought it'd be smart, throw some talcum powder on it. Well, son of a gun, you know, that jumped right out. You can see the hands. I don't know if that's nose or forehead. That's probably a thumb down there, but you can even see how some of the hair has this sebum on it, and it's sticky. And I'm up 2 rungs on a step ladder, and just to give you a little more perspective of that. So what the stuff ends up being is, again, it's sebum. We're all primates. We got this oil on our hands. And your apes and chimps, they have more, and it's like this white waxy substance. Kind of like when newborn baby, so, you know, we assume it must have some kind of, they got it for a reason, some kind of a protective quality. So, interesting, people are collecting this around the country. And I've been also blessed to hook up with Doug Hychek. He's raising a lot of money and like a lightning rod funnel of information, and also funds for the labs in association with people with science. Right down with the handprints, I'm assuming they're retired FBI forensic handprint specialists, and additionally now somebody with an atomic microscope. And we want to be able to see through these prints. And I actually just picked up, it got delivered yesterday, polycarbonate, of which I'm going to attach to these windows in hopes that they put their handprints on that again, which I'm confident they will. Now I can pull that off, roll it up, so as opposed to collecting the latent print from, you know, your regular forensic fingerprint kit with the graphite, they'll be able to see through that print and not just try to get DNA or dead cells, to be able to see atomically what the stuff is made of. So that's going to be a game changer. And of course, a lot of the motivation of Doug, well, he's an experiencer as well, but making the Legend Meets Science 2. Legend Meets Science 1 is fantastic. It's from Jeffrey Meldrum, and he wrote the book on it. And again, if you guys remember Monster Quest, we all watched that on History Channel. So this is a lot of fun to be part of this, and keeps, you know, blowing Doug's hat off, me too, and how we keep collecting it. So this is the, it has a taxonomy name now. It's Alba vernix, Latin for something like white chalky substance, you know, describing what it is. He and Shelley Covington, Montana, did that. And it's interesting, if you see that forehead print that they have, gosh, it looks just like what we're getting. So what this is one of the handprints. I don't know if you can see that, and that's actual size that, you know, I dusted with the graphite. And then, you know, you get the feather duster part out. And I don't know, somehow that's my favorite part to do. And not that I'm really into cleaning that much or dusting, but it just really gets to jump out. And then there's a certain 3M tape, and that's what they use for lifting the prints. It's supposed to be DNA free, but it allows them to, again, to look through a microscope. But I have to attach it to something. So what I discovered was your regular photographic copier paper. So if you're printing out a photo, gosh, tape's right nice to that, and it jumps right out. Now, granted, this is a copy of this. Same thing, but this is the scale. And I'm going to just work through a bunch of these. So like one feature this one kind of demonstrates nice is just the size of the hand, the breadth of it. And primates, their thumb is obviously in a different place, but their thumb's more like a finger. So when it turns, they can leave the dermal ridges, fingerprints, all 5 of them on the window. Well, we can't. And a lot of these demonstrate that. So there's something that they're really interested with this house. I believe it started as curiosity to see the pets inside the people. And this is the rear sliding glass door is super common. The smoke tinted window at the camper. And I think a lot of those things that they're interested in the touch, but now they have to kind of like, and we've all done this, you have to kind of like press your face into it to be able to see through it, either the glare or the tint, and they're curious. I'll take one, do I have to pass it around? Yeah, yep, thank you. So this is another one, actually, nope, this is the original one, and I'll throw some different light on it from time to time. So this would be before I put any kind of media on it. So I'm still back to, even last night, putting talcum powder back on it because they can be really difficult to photograph or even see it during the day. You really have to inspect the glass, get the right angles. But gosh, I find the talcum powder, yeah, I could just put a different color light on it, and I can really photograph it nice. And I don't recall if I showed this one. This is the camper one again, and just giving some scale. Oh, and if you guys do me a huge favor, if you went to my YouTube channel and subscribed, but on there, I'm not a YouTuber per se, and actually my name, Bigfoot New York Todd, when we were making the channel, we didn't know what we were doing. We thought we were making a password. Well, it's stuck, so that's who I am. And I'm from the good New York, not that other New York. Going up by the water, apple country. And you can see how this the powder sticks to the window, and they all come into play. So one of my videos on there, I think it's one like 8 minutes 31 seconds, is my favorite. When first discovering this, up on the step ladder, I opened that emergency exit window, tilted it kind of like this. I'll tilt it back for you. And when I sprinkle that talcum powder on it, start tapping on it, all of a sudden this print just jumped out. And was there with a fellow Canadian researcher, JP's from SOB. That's an acronym for something, but he has it trademarked, which is funny. And just to hear our reaction when this thing just popped out, I mean, it was exciting for us. And I'll do the same thing. I'll start you over here. And welcome. And one thing I've really been blessed with all the friends, the people, actually the validation, being able to talk to so many other people with so many behavior that they're experiencing, because we're all experiencers. That's what got us into this, and it's really validating because you don't always see them, or even if you do, you question yourself of your sanity. So it's kind of like this group therapy, I suppose. All of us come in here, with good food and wine. So this is, back to the blessing, is this older couple at this home that they've opened their doors and their hearts to, and I refer to them as Grandma, Grandpa Bigfoot, because when I'm there, it reminds me of being like 7 years old, spending the weekend with my grandparents' house. You feel special, there's candy by the bed when you go to bed, it's awesome, and I think that's part of the attraction for the creatures. Besides they're always very festive with the lights and the seasonal stuff. They love their pets. The big fish tank that's this big glass, four-season room, and they're known to come up and look in that, and obviously I think it's within a travel corridor for lots of reasons, because there is a stream nearby with trout. You got to have that real good brain food, and of course the gas lines, and there's the cover, and again, it's only like 20 minutes from here. So again, same camper window, more prints. And I'll tell you, the real neat thing is I'm getting more comfortable with it, but sleeping inside that camper and waking up to those. And I've seen something out the window. I didn't really know what it was, and probably I didn't want to know. But all I can say is Bigfoot's seen me. I know that because I'm waking up with handprints. They're peeping Toms. So again, this is who I am. I'm going to share this one next. So, in with talking Doug Hychek, I'll tell you, he's a character. He's in his 70s. He's just super creative. He's an experiencer. He's originally a wildlife photographer. He's got like 2,000 patents. First one to document the giant squid, and all sorts of stuff with bear and beavers. Proved that, documented that beavers cohabitate and co-raise with muskrat with their young, which, so it's cool to be part of somebody like that. So we get talking, gosh, how do we get more of these? He says, you need to get like an acrylic sheet, like the smoke, put it in the woods. They want to touch that. So, of course, I do the Todd spin because I'm getting the handprints. Made up a bunch of these, and that used to squeak. This was in the woods for a while, and it would flash, but surrounded with Velcro. Well, I'd probably still have 15 of these soaking at another site. I just haven't been there. Can't get people to go with me there, and that group there isn't as nice. Actually got them to put their hands inside my hands. They're light touch, and what's interesting too, the right one's more dominant, so it's interesting that they're also right-brained, and the left a little bit, and this is at the same study site. We're getting the other handprints and caught a hair with it. So it's great to have that additional potential evidence to correlate together. And that was just really cool. I'll pass this around. This isn't the exact same one, but it was made just like this. This is a picture of it. And again, it's a little hard to see. I'm just a one-man guy trying to hold the phone and do this stuff too. So, and then what you'll see in front of that is the forceps with the hair that I pulled off of that. And so, I document this, and you have to document how you collect too, your provenance, your process, to be able to back up with any questions and make sure that it's worth the time and money to spend. So it's a lot of work. I enjoy it. It keeps me out of other trouble I'd probably get into. I'll pass these around. So, just as a blow up, this is kind of what their dermal ridges look like, and I will photograph each and every one of them when I can in this condition. So again, this is that emergency exit camper window. So now at this point so I pull this camper window in and out, and I can take it in the garage so that I can photograph it a little bit better, and I'll it allows me to get that forensic fingerprint lifting kit with the graphite and the biochromatic, and be able to lift it. And some of them you'll see where there's a cut through it, and we'll just see that's actually where I did the DNA test, the scraping. It was a good piece of good chunk of the sebum, but leaving the dermal ridges. And this looks like one, I probably did put a little bit of talcum powder on it just because it gives a nice relief for the sake of photography. And these are just additional fingerprint lifts, not that interesting. But again, gosh, there's another hand. And some of them are starting to look the same. But what's neat here with this one, as you can see, the sliding glass window, the same one again. and this is the lifted of that. So that's the scale. So again, one thing that's neat is that's more of the side of the thumb, but so many times you will see that it'll look like it's basically 5 fingers. So I'm getting so many of these, it's like, am I being hoaxed? Well, I've been there with the only people that are there, Grandma, Grandpa Bigfoot, and probably out at my truck, pulling my gear, getting ready to document. They're standing next to me, going to the sliding glass door. We walk, let me back up, sorry. And I'd see them like cock their heads and look at each other. Well, I heard a little bit of noise, but I didn't recognize it. They're used to it. They'd hear this low bass thump, thump. And they're like, that's familiar. Well, what that is these creatures hopping over the railing onto the deck and thump, thump as it jumps on. Sure enough, we walk around the corner. We just came from there like 10 minutes before. There's another new handprint. So it's not them. In addition, the arthritis she has, it's not her. He's missing the end of a finger, and then the next finger takes an immediate right turn. So trust me, it's not his hand. And it's... So I think they originally started looking in these windows to out of curiosity. Obviously I'm only speculating, but to this point, I'm starting to feel like it's like a game with them, and watching us react to it, because they'll slap the house, and then with a few of us researchers come down there, then there's more prints, or the handprints show up just before we come down. I'm sure it's coincidence all the time. It's a lot to digest, I got to be honest. And I'm a witness multiple times, but the one time with that juvenile, there was no dispute. The other times on FLIR or the corner of your eye or night vision or peeking out a tree, you're still 99.9% there. But when you see daylight, you can't be taken away. So like here, for example, is the woman of the house. This is her hand. And this one, you can see I've already lifted these prints, and then I just hit it with more talcum powder, wiped it off. The print's back. This stuff is like, again, it's like a paraffin wax. It's real tacky, and it stays, it holds up to the weather. And I'll show you in a minute the print that's still in the truck, still embedded in my truck. Not sure if I'm onto some repeat stuff, but again, that's that. Oh, and I call this thing the Alba Vernix Curiosity Catcher, because that's the name of the sebum, and I just think it's a catchy name, and it worked. And then here again is just granted this is a photographic copy of it, but it is the scale, and this is the fingerprint lifting tape that you get from a forensic supply house. And this is the size of it, and this would be a thumb. That one I don't recall, but just to give you an idea what it looks like, and the scale. And again, there's multiple size creatures there, but I think these are more teenagers that are doing this. There's some bigger handprints, but I've captured the small handprints. They're smaller in my hand, but the thumb, the length of the fingers. Again, that was a black car. Just washed, driven up the hill, covered with nice fresh road dust. We drove away for an hour, not far away, came back, and a friend of mine, and as we're driving down, and my lights of the UTV are on it, she's like, who put their crummy hands all over my car? And she picked this up long before I did. And yeah, the car was covered, and actually that's what started the handprint thing for me. So again, I tried to put the provenance on it. I know it's pretty crappy handwriting, but I'm doing this right out in the field. So labeling the location. Usually I'll state whether it's the sliding glass window or the camper, and I failed to do that on this. This one's really cool. So what was that hurricane that came through here last fall, September 23rd. I was here. There was prints. So now it's raining, and love the garage setup they have. They have this extended eave overhang, so now I could back my pickup truck to the garage door, pop the lid, and I got like a little covered porch area to work with. So they've casted a lot of prints there. We leave them casting material, taught them how to do it, and they've casted several tracks right in the yard or right behind the house or just in the woods. And but those things are brittle, so I'm trying to find a way with the materials on hand to reinforce these, strengthen them so they can share them. So I got these 6 casts spread out on my tailgate, trying to figure this out. And well, they're like, hey, dinner time, come on in for dinner. So now this is just in their driveway. I go in and have dinner. Hour later, the homeowner, she's sick, so she spends some time in like a lift bed. She's even had her windows replaced because of the view it gives her, and she sees stuff out those windows, and she's a retired wildlife biologist, so she's got a good eye, and she knows what she's looking at, but doesn't always see it straight on. So I was heading out there. She goes, careful as you walk around the corner of your truck. I saw something black just on the other side of it. There's a bear in the yard. Okay, I'm not really used to dealing with that many bears, so, you know, especially ambushing one come around the corner, and I walk back out to the cast, peek my head around. There's nothing there. Well, moments later, she comes out on her cane. You know, you should check your truck cap for handprints. Son of a gun. Well, what was special about these, which I thought was cool, but when I showed the video of Doug Hychek, he was funny. He's like, you know what you got here? And I'm like, no, what? You're the first one to document, if you know how he talks. You're the first one to document that, you know, it's got to be some kind of oil base and watching the handprint form. So as you can see, the truck cap window, tinted by the way, is it's dirty, of course. See how the water reacts with it. It's not really beating up, but I have a video of this actually forming. So when the hand pressed on that water, the grease, the sebum, trapped those water molecules. Well, and you know how the water molecules had a greater attraction for one each other, and you could see them forming up, creating that surface tension together, and then pushing through the sebum. So in other words, if you ever put like a bumper sticker on, vinyl graphics, and you get air trapped under it, the bubbles, and you have to, you know, poke it with a pin, push it down. It's essentially what the water was trying to do with these prints, and you can see that form in the video. So that's really neat. Kind of interesting story. Well, let me continue. No, I'll finish with that. So that evening, walking out, and I used multiple color lights, UV. That's another subject. I accidentally just hit the UV setting, and I zoomed it out because I had to walk to the camper. So now I'm a little spooked of what was just on the other side of my truck at 6 o'clock at night in the driveway. And I scan it. I scan back to the, you know, this shed in the backyard, scanned again, and it was interesting. I wasn't cognitive of this, but I went back to it 3 times, and I think it was because of the blue light, the UV light. I think these creatures are used to us with flashlights, spotlights. Well, these things are peepers, you know, and you see it peeping out from the corner of it multiple times when you I tried to slow it down and stuff. So you're just getting the eye reflection, you're getting the shadow. But it was curious with the purple light, and I just thought it was an interesting observation that they didn't know how to react to that light because they're just not accustomed to it. And I didn't know I captured it there. So additional story. So I go in the camper. This has all been a lot to get my head around again. So as I'm disarming and camper, kitchen, backsplash window, there's a fingernail tapping on that glass in front of me, and I'm like, I can't do it anymore right now. Just go away. Let me sleep. I can't do this anymore. I never did anymore, but I'll tell you, it sounded exactly like somebody's big fingernail tapping the glass trying to get your attention. So, you know, of course, I collect and document that, you know, set of handprints that day. Well, about a week later, my truck, so it's a Ford F-150 four-door, and then you have the Lear truck cap, of which is white. Well, what it was appeared to do was when it looked in the windows, it moved its hand over here to lean over this way to look in the back door of my truck. Well, this didn't show up right away. I mean, it was there. I just didn't notice it. But once my truck started to get dirty, there's a handprint. Well, that's cool. So the handprint was made September 23rd, 2023. I lifted it again with the graphite February 6th, 2024. My truck's parked down there. That handprint is still there. And it's some of the stuff I do with the YouTube video. I documented that just, I think it was Monday night. The sun angle was just on it, right? And what's interesting as well, observations I made, so living up by Lake Ontario, Lake Effect area, we get those real big fluffy snowflakes. And walking up the truck one day, snowing like that, I was actually seeing those snowflakes adhere only to the print. But it's curious because it repels water. So to me, I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about, but to me it suggests that there's something within the molecule of this. It's almost like a Velcro. And then it's kind of what that big fluffy snowflake would represent, kind of like a Velcro. And it was attaching to this. And that print, I can rub that off, and you give it a few days, it'll come back. So in other words, there's something, and we're going to discover this, that's within the sebum that it'll actually etch into paint. In particular, like fiberglass and plastic. So the only thing I have to speculate there is that's more of an open molecule than something like glass or metal that's tighter. So I think that's, you know, it's not proof of anything, but yet it is physical proof, and we're going to find out. So this one was, I got cut off a little bit. Well, April 19th or 20th, just this past April. Again, that camper window. I'm sleeping in there, so I make them work for it, because usually the blinds are up. So when I get in there, I'll pull that blind down. So this time I got it halfway down, and I took the night light, put it in the bathroom, and closed the door most of the way. So there's just the tiniest ambient light in there, so that they would have to, I was hoping, press in on that window harder to see me. And incidentally, I tend to sleep on my right side, so my face is like this far from that window. And sure enough, I wake up in the morning. I didn't see him, but pretty sure Bigfoot saw me. Why this print is special to me is the way that the height of it and the way that the shade was down. I speculate that had its hand planted here, and it's looking in to see me, and it has to keep going a little bit lower. So its hand is lowering a little bit at a time as he has to lower to look under the shade to see me. But that left extra sebum, real goopy. And I was really struggled with this. You'll see my videos again. I document it. Daytime's hard to see it, but I believe that you can. So I was really torn with this one because this was just so cool, but yeah, it'd be great for science. And I have sent off, I don't know how many hair samples in the sebum sample. I got to be at hundreds. I mean, a couple weeks ago I sent 40 some odd, specimens and then subspecimens, because one could call this a specimen or the multiple collections, and I tend to divide it up for University of North Carolina is doing an open DNA study, but because of who Doug is working with, he's kind of like the lightning rod of it and kind of like the funneling the information. So, and also I don't have to break these samples up into sub-samples and record myself taking that apart and then coding it and subcoding it. I already spend too much time on this. It's not the fun part, but you got to do the dirty work with it. So Doug keeps track of it, and he's like, funnel it to me. Off she goes. So again, this is what it looks like zoomed in, and again, you can see how that spot, it's where I collected the sebum, but this handprint is just really neat. All right, this is kind of like where it all started. I mean, we were into Bigfoot in a little bit. There's some areas, ironically, I do a lot of work with Cornell, and coming from a meeting there, one of their vendors, again, this was mostly for wildlife control or high-density apple trellising, left a meeting there. I stopped by Connecticut Hill, one of my research spots, sitting down in the tailgate, had my lunch, and if they really wanted to research it, they could do it on their lunch hour. So that was one of the spots, and then as I was looking for some hunting land lease, I hooked up with a timber company, and to be able to scout and cover more land, I asked, can I use my four-wheeler? So I covered a lot of acreage, and so this goes back to Les Stroud, Survivor Man. My boys and I loved watching that, you know, honing our survival skills. And well, he was on with Todd Standing, did those about the tree structures. At the same time that I'm covering all this acreage of southern tier New York, it's like, son of a gun, starting to see a pattern. Well, then we started investigating, and we had things happen to us. Actually, then we weren't even cognitive to what was happening to us until you start learning more about the mimicking that they do. And like last night, what we experienced when I was over there documented those 7 more handprints, they were whistling to one another across the property. And that's how they get in close to us, is they always work in a group. I've experienced that multiple times. They triangulate on you, and all I can tell you is when they make a noise over there, don't worry about that. They're right over here. And, well, you'll figure that out, because once if you start getting too close or figuring that over there, there's always that distraction over there. Oh, turn back with the FLIR over here. Oh, it's gone. Yeah. So this place was land I ended up leasing, a hunting lease. I don't even know how many acres it is. I still haven't even covered all the acreage of it. So this is south of Wellsville, New York, Allegheny County, right near the Pennsylvania line. You know, there's a excellent trout stream at the base of the valley, but it's inaccessible, of which is still the same farm, but other people don't fish. So there's your brain food. The other feature that makes this place unique is so it's the old family homestead since 1868. So your typical Appalachian Plateau, the top of the mountain was sheared off. You know, everything's on the side. So he's got like 100, 150 head of Black Angus up there. But he doesn't live up there. But he, you know, hauls in this inventory of the round bale for over the winter, and there's a bunch of round bales. Well, once winter comes, the foliage goes away, the deer yard up there, and they're there like crazy. I mean, when I'm down there researching in the winter, I can pull right up, the round bale's right there, and the deer are looking at me, I'm looking at them, and they're not running off because that's the food. Well, just the perfect storm of things, you know, the way the cover is, where the round bales are, the way the thermals work there, the way the prevailing wind is there, it allows these creatures to do an organized deer drive. And this is how this all really started for us, was back to that ravine. Had tree stands along there, but hadn't hunted yet, because if you're archery hunters, I don't care what you do when you stick one, they're going downhill. And this thing, that hill, well, I had 2 17-year-olds with me and some four-wheelers with winches, so that was the only way I would hunt that. And we're all parallel, stretched out over maybe 500 yards, and darn if we don't hear a whoop, and we're texting each other, it sounds like Bigfoot, we're giggling. I'm like, no, it's a beagle bawling in the valley. The wind is manipulating the sound, you know, always just dismissing it. Then it's like getting closer. Then the owls started. We're talking about the owls, and each one of us are like getting our own experiences. Some of them we're sharing. And this was the first snow squalls of the year, too. So the wind would kick up, some snow squalls, and then it would lay right down. Well, then there'd be the rock clacking in between, and then rock clack, clack over there, only when the wind stopped blowing. And we're texting each other talking about, what the hell is that? And we're pseudo Bigfoot or some at that point, totally dismissing it. Not on our hunting property, because if they were there, nobody's going in the woods in the dark, or they're coming out before the dark, and that's your best times. And we kept getting closer, and then these owls, they make a lot of impersonation, mimicking animals. But like with owls, they always have a trill at the end of it. And that's how you can, if you really know your animal sounds, they do a good job, but yet if they do it enough and close enough, you'll hear something's not right with it. And also generally what happens, the more that they make this sound, they like get complacent, because after a while it was like, who, and like a 600-pound one, I'm bored. And the boys are hanging in there. My son raises chickens, and then they converted to going bark, bark, coming closer. That's when my son left. The tree stand was like, he couldn't deal with a chicken that big. Meanwhile, the other fella up there, he's actually turkey hunting and taught him how to hunt, and you got to set a gaze. You can't keep looking everywhere. You got to change the way that you look. You look for horizontal movement in the vertical world, and he's hearing my voice through the head, but that feeling, I need to turn around, He couldn't take it anymore. And as he turned around, because he was turkey calling, something was trying to sneak up on that turkey, and it spun, ran off, and he's like, I just saw something. And then he texts back, and I'm like, what'd you see? He goes, something vertical moving through the vertical world. It's like, oh, and it didn't make any noise either through that dry leaf litter. And it continued, and ultimately coming up to me, it went into going oink, oink. Incidentally, about a mile away is a large pig operation. So to me, they're mimicking what's in their environment. But also what we've experienced too is the closer that they get to us, trialing. Never mind, I'm blanking out on that. You know what I mean. Thank you. Their communication with each other becomes more subtle, which makes perfect sense. Then it might be some tapping or a little twig or some kind of communication. And as far as like with their hair, as far as I'm really strongly suspect that, because I've examined it, a lot of it has like a hollow core, and you put it under a UV light, you hit it just right, especially with your iPhone, at least an iPhone 12 up, and all of a sudden it'll pop like a pink. It'll pick up that UV light like a fiber optic cable. And, again, that happens in nature, flying squirrels and polar bears. So this place has some really big flying squirrels with 18-inch hair. I believe the benefit that should give them, because they've proven working with the FLIR that they think we can see in the dark, just the way that they've reacted. What I postulate, and this would be a benefit to them and part of their survival skills, how they remain hidden and all, is imagine deer hunting. We're all in blaze orange. So if we're camouflaged, somebody could drive right by us, not even know we're there. But if we got some blaze orange on and we're 20 yards in the woods, you can still get glimpses and there's a deer hunter there. So imagine that you could see each other in a spectrum of light, and let's perhaps say that hair responded to light that way. It would allow you to see each other, to help triangulate on each other. I'm not saying everywhere, but it would be just like the blaze orange. So I just don't pull that out of the air. I've come to that for multiple reasons besides examine the hair, just field experience. And who knows? I probably don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm purely postulating on this. So in one of those moments, actually like that, next day, there's a whole lot to the story that I'm glazing over because it's a whole nother story. Next day, I'm walking around the camper. There's got to be tracks. Got to be tracks. So I'm parked in the driveway of this farm, Hilltop Farm. It's 2 miles long. It's dead end. It's actually private. So it's only the farmer driving in and out, or sometimes the gas well guys. And we all drive Cummins diesels, which I think comes into play. And as far as familiarity, where they weren't alarmed. So I'm walking around. It's what? There's got to be prints. So I'm walking this road that nobody walks. And as I walk along with a fella that's never been in the woods before, and like this, and I glance over to him where the spring is, it opens up, and it's like, Derek, that's where I sent you that picture of that ball of light going through the woods that was behind me. It was right over there. I don't know what those are. I'm just saying coincidentally, saw it while out investigating. And as I pointed right over there, I see this limb pop up. So being the hunter, what made that move? And then I see I'm looking around, then I see the 4 legs under the scaffold of beech nut. I see the four legs going along, and I'm trying to get my buddy Derek's attention, not taking my eye off it, because we're going to see a bear right there. It's going to pop right out. And it's like, where's Derek? I'm scooping air. And, well, that bear popped out into an opening and then stood up and ran. And it was a juvenile. I didn't see it in a biped motion. It did every locomotion that you could think of an ape doing. And what was lots of cool observations with it, but to be brief, so this area has been logged some, so there's a tree top there, and as it was scrambling up and over that, one of the branches starting to rot about this big broke, and it fell like a couple feet, startled it, and what I observed was pileoerection, in other words, goosebumps. The hair on its goofy wide shoulders stood right up, both shoulders. And then if you look into that, with apes, chimps, especially a couple males, when they're posturing against each other, you'll see the hair on their shoulders stand up. But this had longer hair. So, of course, we went down looking. I marked my spot. So again, I'm glazing over a bunch. But where I lost sight of, actually couldn't penetrate it because there was all these really small, tight-together beech nut saplings. And I remember I couldn't even get my foot in there. It's like, all right, good enough. We got other stuff. We're going to move on. Thought we could find prints, but it was too dry in there. I did find the perch where they were originally sitting on this log and had worn the bark off, a small one and a big one, and they actually had the patine of their oil on it. And so that was pretty evident to what it was to me. And I sat down and I couldn't see anything. Pulled the limb down in front of me. There's a window and there's my ATV. And I parked my ATV exactly on the spot I made at that moment. I'm just used to it as a ground hunter. And wow, they could see that, and they watch us drive by. And the other thing that's interesting, too, is the angle of which they watch from is just like we would like to do as bow hunters or a sniper, a quartering away shot. So in other words, for us to see it driving by, you would have to look around like that. I just think it's so clever. So I went back down there a month later. I'm going to do a DNA scraping of that patine on that seat. And actually, it was a big branch that went up, and that's actually where the juvenile sat. When I came down there, it was all busted apart. And it was kind of startling. So I had to change my approach, how I was going to collect this. So I was documenting, I was going to go down to town, I'm going to figure out some way to collect these pieces and preserve it. So, there's really another interesting part that happened that night with these balls of light, but that's another subject because we have to separate. As I say, we can't cross the streams, Egon. We need to keep this stuff, even though there's a lot of correlation, doesn't mean causation. So I go back in there the next day. I'm going in a different direction to package up these broken pieces, like 18 inches. And I got turned around a little bit, trying to get around some raspberry bushes, and all of a sudden I pierce into this opening, and there's like a little nest right in there. And it's where I lost sight of the juvenile. So this nest, I've been told it's technically a nest. To me, I'm more comfortable calling it a bed, because I'm not saying that the juvenile was born in there, but what I do strongly believe, this is like where it's put. You stay here while we go out and do our organized deer hunt, and you stay here. And and I collected this whole thing, and the hair that's out of this, and again, that's been distributed. Of course, I always save some behind for other labs, but it has all the behavior of what a chimp or an ape would do if it's making a ground nest. And what was the first thing that caught my eye that was so interesting was, well, with all the ferns, I saw some fresh ferns that were slept on like the night before, and I could see some that looked like a few days old that were compressed, slept on. And you can see another stage. Then I'm also noticing what I call tools of opportunity that it's ringed with, or fidget sticks is what I call them. So imagine as it lays there, think of a juvenile and being bored. There's all these little sticks, tools of opportunity, where actually some had mud on it with hair, where they itched themselves, and just keeping themselves occupied. And then I discover off to this angle, large and small scat, really large scat. And it's poop in a group, right? Well, primates do that. Bears don't care. where we all know they in the woods, right? But bears don't care. They'll even go in their own bed. These things get up and do it in an organized area. And actually, it was kind of concealed under the ferns. And I guess the primates do that as well. Well, another thing that was really cool was, so there's a large part of the root that comes out that was covered with moss, and it lined right up where something slept. It was their pillow. So I documented and collected this. That was really special. And incidentally, it's right where I lost sight of the juvenile. And so back to the Cummins diesels. So as I'm in here trying to figure out how to document this, and I got to tell you pretty honestly at this point, and this happens here lots of times, I'm a little spooked because I'm focused on this. My back is exposed, and you hearing things because they're many times watching you. So I'm a little uncomfortable. Well, I hear the drone of a Cummins. Well, both these guys, they got some hot rod trucks because, well, they got to haul those trailers of hay up that hill over and over, and those trucks are set up to pull. And imagine a 21-year-old son coming up without a trailer. He's fire road going sideways, so I hear him coming. I walk out. I'm standing by the road. I'm waiting. I know he's coming up like a hot rod. He's not showing up yet. We had to be right around the corner. Finally, he shows up. It's like, did you stop on your way up? No. I heard him when he turned, before he turned the corner, the bottom of the hill, and the valley comes out like this, like this, like this. From this position, it gave an acoustical anomaly. Many acoustic anomalies have changed battles. Gettysburg's one. You know, the low round top, the acoustic anomaly that happened there. I could hear their truck 2 miles. And that, another reason I think why the nest was particularly there was there's always an advantage, you know, and that's what a lot of this that bugs me with these handprints is, and at this property, to what benefit? For the risk. Everything's, you know, risk benefit, lower your risk, the highest yield of calories, and I've probably talked too long because I haven't even prepared anything, and in my business I have to speak in front of crowds, and I fear it. And now talking Bigfoot, I'll talk to anybody all day long. It gets in you. It's crazy. So this is one of the sticks I collected, and you can see the hair themselves. And this is some of the scat. I'll tell you what I absolutely love. Hopefully I don't jinx myself. So I use it for scale. Still have the same pocket knife. And it's a great tool. I use it all the time. But that's for scalp. So that's 7 inches, blades 3 inches, just for scalp. Now, to me, I would have said that was bear head. I saw it other than in the group. It's all these pieces and parts that support one another that kind of maybe make it something. So, any questions? I'm trying to be brief. I don't even know how long I've left.
One picture where there were feet. You guys actually track the thing.
You know, I haven't yet. You mean comparing to all the other photos together, to one to the other?
Like a database of fingerprints.
I like the way you think. Not yet. But that's why I document, and hopefully, I mean, if you want it and take that on, I'd be grateful. But yes, that can be done.
Do you think the way the oil interacts with substances might show that it's like a really high pH? That would make it antimicrobial, antifungal?
I think you're very right. And so what we've seen over at this property too is, like, if they don't want us coming down the one trail, this is crazy, and it happens to be beech nut, and pay attention to me when I talk about beech nut and hemlocks, just an observation, all both high in vitamin C. The limbs tied together, and they're woven in such a manner that we can't reproduce nor pull them apart. And in fact, interesting enough, the dexterity of gorilla, I can't do that with my right hand, is is like this as opposed to we're like this. Maybe that explains how with those big fingers they can tie those things together. So I've seen those made, not like as, again, this is too much to get our head around, like we walked by this an hour before and it wasn't like this. And within hours, the leaves that it handled, not just besides a burning effect or a blight or something, it was like there was a chemical reaction with those leaves. You could see it, not just the whole leaf dying, like where the print was on the leaf, like reacting within a couple hours. And if I had the room to bring all this stuff, of course I'm this guy. Yeah, I harvested those weaves, took them home, put them in 2 bottles of glycerin, which I didn't have at first, but you do some research, real maple syrup works. But the glycerin works better on Amazon. Came quick, and it preserved the leaves in place, and they're still green. They're a little dry, but the thing you can sort of handle. I'm gonna put it somewhere sometime, or donate it somewhere. But it's really cool. And as far as like the structures and stuff, people are like no, bullcrap. Yes. I'm not saying all of them are, but it's just like. Anything that you hunt, okay, you can be a deer hunter. You're taught something as a kid, and you see this sign, you see a deer track. But the more you do it, the more you get into it, and the more that you want out of it. Like, I want sign that represents a large presence here. I want, okay, there's bucks there. No, I want a trophy buck. You start learning all these signs, and those signs lead to you shooting, hopefully, a trophy buck that nobody ever saw before, right? This is the same stuff, and it's ubiquitous. I mean, wherever I travel, it's the same kind of sign for the same reasons, to their same benefit. The tree weaves are new to me here, and they're pretty cool, but yeah, pay attention to that stuff. And honestly, as I leave Kane coming up here, I see many markers of how they cross the road. And again, the road crossings are always where there's undulating ground, a slight curve, anything to give you that quick screen movement. Just put in the mindset of you have a mission. Maybe some of you got to kill, and you don't want to be killed, and you're in their territory. Like, think of it like a Marine recon scout, and think from a ground level and below things and how they move. You'll start seeing the sign that's there. I don't know. I don't know. It seems plausible for that. But I'll tell you, my thinking on that, as far as the species of them, has definitely changed. Over the last couple of years, that there's more of them than what we think. And just like all animals, they live on the edge of us. That's where the food is, and things are easier off of us. So they're around. No, I haven't noticed any kind of smell. Yep. Well, one time I thought so, and this is back at the Wellsville place, and I almost with that place in tornadoes. I mean, I hadn't seen one there before, but you can see the wreckage through the woods, and man, something came rolling in, and which ironically, we were just sighting in 3 of these black rifle things. So we put out 300-400 rounds right in that direction safely, and the storm comes in, and it was right before a tornado would stand up. Yeah, I do the weather chasing too, and it's like there's no place safe. Get in the truck, get in the pasture, because there's all this timber. That's what's going to kill us. And I got thinking, would these creatures do the same thing? And there's this old sugar shack, and yeah. We hop on the ATV. I let my buddy drive my truck over, and I'm buzzing over on the ATV to the sugar shack. And it was like I bit into it as I was putting along. I turned around, came back, I bit into it again, shut it off, and I couldn't find it. Well, long story short, go in the sugar shack. Sure enough, in that pea gravel, nice big footprint, which really represented one over a tree root that had grown through it and how the deflection was. It's in pea gravel. But what was stunning to me was in the pea gravel, how deep it all was. And additionally, there's like my size footprint that far down in the pea gravel, barefoot. And again, what was really neat was facing that road, 2 boards are pulled off of this side of the sugar shack. Oh, the shadows. They always work the shadows. Back in the shadow. And again, if you wanted a murder hole, it was perfect. And the back door, oh, in all these positions, we'll always have multiple escape routes and typically a defilade. So I don't know if they really disappear. Where they stand and post up and watch us, it's premeditated. Oh, I got a whole nother subject on that. But back to this sugar shack, and to reinforce, I had the smell. We casted the print. There's actually this other weird stuff that happens when we're in there casting, when I'm mixing the stuff up, being a smart aleck. I'm in the sugar shack, turning to my buddy. So I'm supposed to mix this like pancake batter, you know, and making pancake jokes. Then I turn around to the wall. So now this place was used through like the 50s, 60s, and 70s. You know, it's abandoned. So, you know, the barns, the wood drives, so you got cracks of light. So I just turned jokingly and says, you know, Bigfoot could be on the other side of that wall over there watching me. He's probably going, what's with this guy in my feet? You know? And we're laughing. So we make the cast and stuff, and so these boards pulling off, there's a stringer this way. Well, you know, I've broken my neck, so I don't bend under that way. I'm walking around to the back door. But and there's a big ditch, and my buddy, young fella, he's bringing stuff back and forth to me. Now it's time to harvest that cast with the root. It's like I got loppers in my 4-wheeler. And he brings them up. So just being curious with these loppers as he's walking up to the sugar shack, he just snips a couple saplings and end of a branch to see how it worked, handed it to me. Cut the roots, incorporate it, and it took a little while to do this. And it was, well, packing the stuff, ready to leave. He's going through the hole. I go out the back door, come around. Now walking in, because it's overgrown, with the eaves and the way the saplings grow up, I have to walk right under the eaves with my shoulder scraping the building because the saplings start. I come walking out. There's this glyph, like this star pattern with twigs like this big right in my path with other sticks and branches, but incorporated those 4 or 5 brand new cut limbs with my lopper incorporated within this glyph. And right on the other side where I made the joke, and it makes you feel like, who is the thinker of the joke? You know, and I don't know what that proves. So of course I whipped out to start documenting it. Right before I hit record, I called my buddy over. It's like, hey Dave, did you do this? And he's walking up. He says, no. All of a sudden, pow, there was a tree knock. Like ha 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 ha, they saw it. It's how it felt, you know. And I don't know. I could go into a little more weird coincidences there. So time for me? All right, so we did a quick documentary with David Politis. That's coming up. That'll cover some of the other weird. So, hey, thank you.
Let's give a round of applause.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you. Oh, hey, like and subscribe to my channel. Get me separated from Todd Standing, please, because, I mean, not there's anything wrong with him, but if you do the search Bigfoot New York Todd, it still comes out with Todd Standing Vancouver because he did one investigation in New York State. And the word Bigfoot Todd, and honestly, we didn't design that name. I didn't know what we were doing. It was a password as far as we were setting up. Well, I own it now, so help me out with that. And I document post. It's just all I do. It's not edited and stuff. It's just raw field stuff that's interesting. Thank you.
Todd
Guys,
Smith.
Let's give him a big round of applause. That takes a lot to come up and talk for an hour. Thank you so much.
And I didn't even have to look at anything.
I know, you're good. Good
Thank
stuff.
you. Thank you.